Welcome, Impactful Parents. It's time for the Impactful Parenting Podcast, where I give you parenting tips and resources to make you a more impactful parent to your school-age child. I am your host, Kristina Campos. Don't forget that the podcast is just a small part of what the Impactful Parent offers. Start your journey to becoming a more impactful parent by downloading the Impactful Parent app, available on your phone's app store or by going to theimpactfulparent.com. See you on the inside. Welcome, Impactful Parents. Today we're going to be talking about an amazing strategy to get your child to read more this summer. Hello, my name is Kristina Campos. I'm founder of the Impactful Parent, and I help parents of school-age children who want to be one step ahead of their kids to turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I'm a mom of 4 kids, a teacher that has taught every grade from preschool through high school. And today I help moms and dads like yourself to navigate the exhausting, confusing, frustrating, but rewarding world of parenting. So welcome to the Impactful Parent. And today I have a special guest. His name is Ramon Gil. And Ramon is a cartoonist with his own graphic novel about teen scientists who go on adventures. And this is called the Whiz Kids from Darpa. These teen scientists use STEM strategies to save the day. And Ramon also writes early reader books for children. Now, today, Ramon and I are going to be discussing how you can use graphic novels to support your child's reading skills and foster a love of reading. So put aside those misconceptions you may have about comics and that you might have had when you were a kid, and open your mind to a different kind of reading material that your child is not only going to enjoy, but will be asking you for more and more novels throughout their summer vacation.
Thank you, Kristina. Really honored to be here.
Well, let's start off with the most obvious question so far that a lot of the audience is probably going to be thinking is, what is the difference between a graphic novel and a comic book? Especially since most of us, we grew up with comic books, but graphic novels, like, what's the difference?
Well, throughout the, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even the 90s, comic books were these about 20 to 24 page magazines with a story often serialized. So you would have to watch or you would have to read the comic books in a series, like they're always to be continued, right? And they tended to be about superheroes and maybe some science fiction and adventure stuff. But in the last, 15 years, publishers have been publishing these long form comics called graphic novels, and they tend to be at least 60 to 100 pages, oftentimes more. And they aren't necessarily about superheroes or science fiction or adventure. Back in the late 90s, the graphic novel Mouse, which was about the Holocaust, won the Pulitzer Prize. And a few years after that, books like Smile by Raina Telgemeier and Captain Underpants by Dave Pikey became very popular. You know, these were books for kids. They were not about, Captain Underpants was a bit about superheroes. But Smile was about this girl who was getting braces, right? So more and more books started coming out about slice of life, about coming of age, about growing up, started coming out, and a lot of publishers jumped on the bandwagon. And now you go to any bookstore, Barnes & Noble, and they have an entire graphic novel section dedicated to children's books and young adults. And they can be anywhere from about high school or junior high, about crushes, about family stuff, about relationships, you name it. They're out there. No longer comic books or graphic novels are no longer just about superheroes or spaceships. They're about real life, especially life of young people. And these books, because they are more than 20 pages, they're about, like I said, 60 to 100. They are a self-contained story. And you no longer have to keep going back to the shop and getting the next issue. You can just buy the book and you have the complete story right there and then.
I know Captain Underpants has been extremely popular in our household too, as the kids were growing up. So, I think my kids liked it because it was so relatable. And it's nice to know that graphic novels out there, that there's a variety and we can find one that our kid is going to resonate with. That is awesome. So, how do you believe that graphic novels then can help encourage children to read more and develop their love of reading other than, getting their favorite subject? And of course, with something like Captain Underpants, it was just like it spoke the kid language. So, I guess they got it. What else
Well,
do you think about that?
well, if you think about it, you're a kid, you go from reading picture books, and all of a sudden you're expected to read these prose books with very dense pages full of lots of words. It can be a jarring transition for a lot of kids, but graphic novels are a great transition because it combines words with pictures, and studies have shown that combining the words with pictures is really helps with comprehension, because what happens is that you'll have the words, and sometimes the words are not known to the child, right? It's maybe they're new words, but because of the images, there's some context that they learn, that it's easier for them to decode and learn the meanings behind the words. It's kind of like real life. I mean, if somebody just heard words, as when kids grow up or learning a new language, it's always accompanied by what you see. When somebody says, when somebody's learning Spanish and they say la puerta, right? But they'll see there's somebody opening the door, so they can decode the word, right? If you're reading straight from a book, it's very hard to decode things if you don't have a visual cue. But with graphic novels, you do, and but that's one thing. At least it helps with comprehension. And today's graphic novels, they're pretty sophisticated stories. They're not just like like these simple stories. There's plot, there's character, there's theme. So it really helps. It's a great transition from the picture books before the prose novels. And what's more is, once a kid gets hooked on a genre, whether it's adventure or whatever, then they'll want more, and they'll eventually search out. Usually they'll search out the prose books too.
I love that the graphic novels are being used for their literacy development, and that gap, like you said, it's the filler between the picture books and your classic non-picture novels that adults typically read. I love that this is that gap in between. And it's like, why did not we think of this as parents? Like, bam. Like it feels it's so simple, and yet it's right in front of our face. And I feel like so many parents we don't even look at that. We go straight from picture books to these other ones. And that's crazy that we're not using or utilizing the graphic novels the way they could be.
And kids who just do not want to read because they are intimidated or they're overwhelmed by prose books, right? So there are people who grew up like that. I've been, I don't know how many times I've gone to a house and there are no books. Some people just never had developed a love for reading, and I think graphic novels can help alleviate that.
So now that we're talking about this, and there's parents listening going, yes, I need to utilize graphic novels to bridge that gap. But how can parents ensure that the content of whatever they go out there and purchase for their child or check out from the library is going to be age appropriate? I mean, engaging, we can kind of like sift through it, but age appropriate, without reading the whole thing ourselves.
Like with any books, the parents should always be monitoring what they're reading. Bookstores and libraries are pretty good at categorizing and classifying the books that they have and putting them in the correct sections. So, but definitely, I would suggest that parents always make sure that they read the back matter, the back cover information, to make sure it is appropriate. Teachers are pretty good at only stocking books that are appropriate for that grade level. But let me share an experience. One time I found that my son had been downloading some manga, which is Japanese comic books, on his Kindle that were a little bit too mature for him. But I used that as a learning opportunity to teach him about, what relationships are like and how, there wasn't anything really bad, but there were definitely a lot of like a few risque pictures in there, no nudity or anything like that. But I just took the opportunity to tell him, this is not what real relationships are like, and this is not how women want to be viewed. So he said, "I know, Dad." So I would rather he not have been found those things, but I just made sure that I used it as a way to have a serious talk with him about those things.
But there isn't a rating for graphic novels on the cover or anything like that. Parents just need to know they have to do their own research or ask a teacher for help with maybe the age appropriateness. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Usually when you go online, it'll say if it's a middle grade comic or if it's a young adult comic. Those are primarily the two main categories for graphic novels. It's middle grade and young adult.
Okay,
Before
that's
that,
better.
I think if they're younger, I think it tends to be more picture books. So
Sure. Do you have any specific strategies that you would recommend for incorporating the graphic novels into our literacy programs, whether that's encouraging our teachers to do that in classrooms or something that parents can just do at home?
aside from looking for graphic novels that relate to the topics that you're talking about in class, there are a couple of organizations. One is called Reading with Pictures. Another one is called Creators Assemble, and these are nonprofits who have teaching toolkits that teachers and parents can use or guide them when incorporating graphic novels into their everyday lessons. So I would encourage looking at those. You can just find them online, Creators Assemble or Reading with Pictures.
I love that. Thank you so much for giving us that resource. And I would encourage parents that if your child loves graphic novels, but your child's teacher just hasn't really encouraged that, I mean, don't be afraid to talk to that teacher and, throw out these resources for them. I mean, teachers need the help. Honestly, we can't like go out there and research everything on our own. And it's nice to get parent input as long as, we're nice about it and say, hey, I just, this is what I've learned. And you can just give it to a teacher and we'll see how that's received. But I wouldn't hold back as a parent to trying to help your teacher in the classroom if you have a really great idea or an amazing graphic novel that you know that the class would really benefit from.
Today's teachers and today's librarians grew up with comics, and so they don't have as much of that, I guess. They feel or they view comic books in a better light than previous generations. And they do incorporate them, and a lot of librarians today are finding that graphic novels are the most checked out books in their collections.
Now, I'd love to know more about your graphic novel, The Whiz Kids from Darpa. So tell me about it and what ages of kids is this comic for?
Hi, this is the Whiz Kids from Darpa right here, and you can see it behind me as well. And it's appropriate for anywhere from 10 to 14 years old. And what it is, it's about a diverse group of kids who happen to be geniuses. And they go on these adventures, spy missions, things like that. And they use science or STEM to save the day or to just solve their problems. And it's a diverse group of kids because the leader of the group is autistic. The hacker, which is the second command, they're transgender. And I've got an African Hawaiian, I guess, weapons engineer, and then I've got a Latina linguist who used to be a former spy, and I've got a talking bear. So it's pretty
That's
diverse,
fantastic.
and a lot of these characters are based roughly on people I know or people in my family. My child is a little bit on the spectrum, and my daughter is non-binary. So, the Hawaiian engineer, African Hawaiian engineer. I'm not African, but I have an affinity for the culture, and I am always scientifically curious. Science has been a big part of my life. So that's what it's about, and those are the characters. And a lot of the dialogue is very snarky, so which I think sort of appeals to that age group. And there's a lot of focus also on the relationships between the characters, because I think in the end, that's the kind of thing that people really gravitate to, is how people relate to each other.
That sounds so interesting. What kind of adventures and things do they do? Can you give me a snippet example?
Sure. Like at one point, they are in the middle of the forest fire, and it just so happens they brought their music equipment with them, and a new technology today is using sound waves to put out fires. So they use their music equipment to put out the forest fire. So that's one adventure. Another adventure was there was going to be a mudslide, and what they did was they froze the soil so that it was no longer porous. It was solid, right? So all the every chapter introduces a new scientific concept, which is real life science. And every chapter ends with a QR code you can scan and you can read more about that science. So it's not even really science fiction as much as it's science fact. I mean, I take some liberties, but all in all, but every adventure there's some kind of concept behind that's based on real life.
How fantastic. So the child's not only being entertained, but they're learning along the way.
Yes, the goal is to try to spark a sense of curiosity in them, scientific curiosity. So,
Do you plan on doing a sequel or anything to this?
yes, I am working on a sequel. I'm also talking to a few publishers about, because right now I'm only just self-publishing this, but it is in on online on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, and several bookstores around the country. But I think I could get a bigger reach if I got an actual publisher to put this out, and hopefully we will be able to make a series out of it. I'm already thinking about book 2.
So if people are interested in starting off with Whiz Kids from Darpa to try out graphic novels for their kids, where can they find it?
They can just Google it, Whiz Kids from Darpa or Whiz Kids Darpa, and it'll come up in a bookstore near them or on Amazon. And if you do go to the main site, whizkidsdarpa.com, there will be a listing there of which retailers are carrying them. And also on that site, you can read a few of the chapters as as samples of the book.
Is there any other series that you would recommend out to as great starters for parents to just take a look at if they're really interested in exploring this concept of using graphic novels as a springboard to get their kids that love of reading? Anything that you just recommend? Give us some leads.
Sure. I think Raina Telgemeier, any book by Raina Telgemeier is good. And for older readers, there are books by Jean Liang Yang, I think, or Jean Yang. Books like The Monkey King, and I can't remember the other books, but they just can go to any bookstore, and they will have a graphic novel section. And there's a whole bunch of things, and to satisfy any kind of taste or genre curiosity.
And lastly, as you continue your work in advocating for graphic novels for young readers, what are some of the future goals that you're looking forward to pursuing in this field?
Okay, well, this is actually my second middle grade book. My first middle grade book was through Benchmark Education, and it was about these kids who tried to be entrepreneurs. And I kind of want to do another book like that, but much longer and with much more information about starting a business. I used to be a business owner myself. I helped my wife with her business, and I've taught entrepreneurship. So I do want to make like a middle grade book about business, about starting a business. There are a lot of concepts that I feel that I could sort of like translate or retell in a way that kids will understand them, or even adults. So I want to do a middle grade business book, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I think that's fantastic. We need more people like you out there providing this type of material for our kids because it's so, so beneficial. Well, thank you, Ramon, so much for being a part of the show today and educating this on us, because I think it's going to be massively impactful to so many kids reading this summer. What are some last thoughts you have for our parents?
I think I'd like to remind parents that in this age of social media, TikTok, YouTube, iPads, computers, video games, getting kids to read is very important, and graphic novels do a great job of getting kids to read. So, and kids prefer to read things that they choose on their own. So, if your child wants to read graphic novels, don't discourage them. They're reading. Let's just grab it, take it, appreciate, that they're actually doing something besides just staring at a screen. So that's it.
I'm glad you decided to be here today. Begin your Impactful Parent journey by downloading the Impactful Parent app. The Impactful Parent app is free, so you can carry help, tips, and parenting resources right in your pocket. and discover answers to your parenting questions. Download this free app today. Just go to theimpactfulparent.com or your phone's app store and discover how you can step up your parenting game and become a more impactful parent. Also, this episode is just a small part of what the Impactful Parent offers. Also available are online courses, parent support groups, coaching services, and, of course, the Impactful Parent app. So find out more at theimpactfulparent.com. But until next time, you got this. I'm just here to help. Thank you for listening today. Remember to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And don't forget, the Impactful Parenting Podcast is an extension of the Impactful Parent community. Go to the Impactful Parent website and download the free Impactful Parent app so you don't miss a parenting tip that can help you and your family. Thanks for listening today. So go to theimpactfulparent.com and see you next episode.